I can't hear you, by the way. You probably still need to connect your audio. Josh, I'll give you a crisp high five if you figure this out in the next 30 seconds. I don't even know if you can hear me. Well, he did not figure it out. Nothing like waiting until the last second. I'll give him a call. So this is the part that would normally be the cold open. Hey, how's it going, everybody? We are live. It is Wednesday, August 19th, 2020. We have made a little facelift to our stream. We hope you enjoy it. But before we get down to the nitty-gritty, we got a little intro here from our main man, Walters.
Welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix with your lovely hostesses, Garlic Johnson.
We're going to need to take a break here while I change my pants.
And Josh Mitchell.
Sitting here undefeated in everything I do, except fantasy football. No, I'm not allowed to handle crayons.
Not after last time.
Not after last time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Garlic and Josh.
Thunderous applause.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of your lovely hostesses, the Garlic Johnson. I am joined by our other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Say hi to the folks, Josh.
I can wave now.
You can wave now. Your connection appears to be great as well, but your audio is good, so that's all we're going to care about at the moment. But now everything should be working A-OK.
Oh, hey.
So, in Chit Chat, Walters wrote the Ryan Walters Combine video and where he'll be taken, or maybe you typed that, I'm not sure.
Oh, I typed that.
Do you want to talk more about it if you typed it, or you just want to leave it like that?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how far behind this video lag is.
From the chat? I don't know. It shouldn't be too terribly bad.
I just know we're moving like we're low budget TV characters.
On YouTube or on Zoom?
On Zoom. Which might be YouTube. I don't know where our faces are.
Oh, both. Our faces are on both.
Yeah, no, the Walters Combine video came out and I promised that I'd talk about it in the chat that no one cares about this podcast in. And so I'm going to do it and I'm done talking about it. The video is out. Audio Al, he is now, I don't know, Animation Al? No, I don't know. Al, if you listen to this, come up with a new name. He's not going to be taken. The tease of where he'll be taken is that he won't be taken. Linemen don't even run as slow as he does.
So is Walters the new Glacier then? Is that kind of what I'm hearing at you?
No, Walters has an excuse. He's torn his Achilles and he's almost 45 from what I understand.
Walters, you are old. Holy shit.
Yep. But no, there's a video out there. It's 14 minutes long. It's an ESPN production. Al production, I should say.
Yeah.
Budget was just under $100,000, but we're hoping that the return is a little bit higher.
Excellent. Okay, well, I did skip part of the intro while we were having some technical difficulties. Don't forget to email the show, hiddenoaksoverdose@gmail.com, facebook.com/hoodpod. You can leave us voicemails at anchor.fm/hoodpod. We are still on our journey to 100 subscribers. I think our current count is like 15, 18, something like that. So we hope to get up to 100 just so we can get a custom URL on YouTube. We think that will help us in marketing to no one, and it'll make me feel better without having all the random letters and numbers that make our current URL look ugly. The segment start times will be down in the description below for the podcast. You will also see them in the YouTube description, but I'm only going to take them down once because I'm lazy, because the YouTube goes live before I start recording the podcast. So I'm not going to redo
Thanks,
that.
Caramel Bear.
And thank you to Levi Oki.
I just wanted to beat you. Yeah.
Thank you, Levi Oki Illustration on Instagram, for the beautiful art that you guys see in the podcast art, and also what I'm using as I'm reusing a lot of his art for the stream. So yeah, we did the Walters chit chat. Josh, the point of today's podcast is a reintroduction, quote unquote. So our very first podcast we did this. That was back in 2018, back when Josh had a mic that I don't know. How would you describe your
I got
first?
it in a cereal box.
I wish a mic of that quality would come in a cereal box. But yeah, so Josh's mic was rough in the beginning. I decided to hook him up with some new, better gear after that, and we've been flying ever since. But that one sounds ugly because of Josh's mic and or because of his, I don't know, we could say tepidness.
Talking voice.
Josh, well, it could be talking voice as well. Josh whispered almost the entire first thing. Whether it's his fault or the mics, we won't say for sure, but it sounded rough. So it's a good idea to reintroduce the audience to us every so often anyways, but I thought this would be a good excuse to do it. This will be our third year. So Josh, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself to start.
Well, I am a 29-year-old male with flowing brown hair. I
Excellent.
can say that now because 2 years ago, I had no hair. I am from Minnesota, but I'm a Packers fan because I actually got an education somehow.
Somehow?
I mean, I guess if I were given a grade value on how I answer this question in interviews, it would probably just be LOL. And so I'm going to pass it on to you. Tell me about yourself. Give me your elevator pitch.
Ooh, my elevator pitch. So if I were like meeting someone professionally for the first time, I'd be like, "Hello, my name is. I am currently a business analyst."
I did it. He said early on he would never say his real name on the podcast, and I did it.
All right, we're gonna have to start over.
2-year long con.
We're gonna have to start over. I can't believe you just made me do that. You son of a bitch. How long have you been cooking? How long have you been cooking that up?
2 years. You said it on like the second episode.
Oh my god. Yeah, we're gonna have to start over. So anyways, like I was saying, hi, nice to meet you. My name is Garlic Johnson. I'm a business analyst at insert company name here. I have my MBA from Metro State, and I'm a Taurus. I enjoy long walks on the beach. That'd be my elevator pitch. But more importantly for this podcast, I am a husky, squared gentleman who enjoys football, and me and Josh grew up together. That's kind of why we're here. But about myself, I don't know, Josh. Well, how would you describe me? And then I'll turn it back around and I'll describe you at the very end.
I would say that you are a timely, somewhat of an asshole human being.
Okay, only somewhat. I think that's an upgrade.
I got that backwards. Sorry, my notes got dyslexic. You're an asshole and you're somewhat timely.
Glad to know I'm somewhat timely.
No, one of my oldest friends, I should say. If there's ever a wagon nearby, he's likely got flowers in it, so we could pull it around the block. And so that's just, it's hard to kind of describe what 20 years of knowing each other in a short time. So you were in my wedding. I'll be in yours and Brad's.
Well, I mean, will you be on Brad's side of the wedding or my side of the wedding? Because yours and Brad's, when you say that, I assume you're saying it's mine and Brad's wedding, like me and Brad are getting married.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
That's, yeah. No, I'm going to actually get ordained just for that, and then I'm going to retire my ordained ship afterwards.
Wow. Like, would you go to the Anoka County Courthouse?
I'll put that plaque right next to I'll put that plaque right next to the one that says I am an owner of some land in Scotland.
Oh yeah, hockey, will you? Lord Josh,
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah, Lord Reverend Pastor Minister Josh.
Oh, didn't even. I thought for sure you would sprinkle in the father. No father on that one, huh?
No.
Okay. Well, now, as soon as I came up with this idea, I hated it because I don't know what I would say to describe you. Similar to you, how do you summarize 20 plus years of friendship? But we'll start out with Josh is loud. I would say if I were to think of my very first interpretation of Josh, it would be he was loud and somewhat flamboyant. He likes to yell French toast at Bradley as he sits up in a tree. He likes to, sometimes he likes to beat up kids that are younger than him and smaller than him. Not that he would still do that. Maybe he would. Who knows? But no, I mean, Josh has been... See, this is tough. Josh, if we were going through couples counseling, we'd be failing right now. But, yeah, I don't know. Josh is a lovable human being.
We don't need counseling.
Are you saying we don't need it, like as a fact, or you're saying we shouldn't need counseling?
We don't need it. We shouldn't. We have nothing. We can't describe each other because we have no issues. If we had issues, we'd be talking all the negatives.
I suppose that's true. Well, Josh, let's go into the backstory of this podcast. Why did we start this podcast?
As a way to kind of get all of our league members to participate more. Obviously, if I were to say you and I are probably the more intense fantasy football players. Aside from, I would say Derek and Willie were up there. I say were for Willie because R.I.P. in peace. And he's no longer in the league, but
he's not in the Dynasty League. He's in the redraft.
I forgot about that. Yeah, so Derek, Willie, and Hammer are probably up there with us, but I guess I don't know how into it. I guess Brian's not into it, just based on his draft last year and how much. I heard some of the questions he was asking. Not that he doesn't know football, but he is part of the Hidden Oaks.
Sure is.
But we just wanted something to do to keep the league engaged because we could feel the attention and the overall interest waning on it with a few people. And we've lost a couple of members over the years, but we've also grown from a 8-person league. I say person because Jesse's in it. And now we're 14.
We are
waiting
14.
List.
We do. Well, who's on the waiting list at the moment?
Well, I guess we did clear a waiting list after you kicked off one person and another one quit. But I'm going to just go ahead and guess we have a waiting list. We have a podcast, Garlic.
I would say we are pretty exclusive. We are pretty desirable. I would be a good way to describe us. I'd say we are desirable. So to assume we have a waiting list that is expansive, I think is a fair assumption.
Yeah. What about you? What has kept you going with this podcast? I've told you we started to keep engaged with some other podcasts that we know, but what's kept you going?
Oh, okay. So, I will answer that question. I will just like to shout out because if we don't, we will likely hear about it tremendously. We can't not say that we were inspired by Audio Al and the Walters. I don't believe I remember you saying that, at least in this little part. So they were doing a podcast. Go ahead.
I would say Audio Al for sure, and the one that really got me interested was when Jordan subbed for Walters. So I don't think Walters was a big contributor to wanting to do a podcast.
That's tough. But so Audio Al,
love you, Walters.
Audio Al and Walters were doing a podcast in another league that Josh is in, and then that podcast was inspired by another podcast, The Land of 10,000 Coons, or 10,000. Is it Land of 10,000 Coons? 10,000 plus Coons? I forget because Walters named his whatever. But so, anyways, we were inspired by a pod, inspired by another pod. So that's that. But what has kept me going? I do honestly believe it is a pretty fun hobby for me. Obviously, I've learned the bare minimum of audio recording and all the niches in that. And now I've just expanded my knowledge base to all the streaming stuff I'm doing. I can currently tell that it is definitely taxing my poor little laptop quite tremendously. If I had a beefier computer setup, it would probably look slightly better on the Zoom for you. But it's fun to learn those skills. I don't know when I'll ever need them for, any professional life, but it is certainly a fun hobby for me. I enjoy doing it. I think you and I have a good chemistry. When I'm a Vikings fan, you're a Packers fan. Very seldom do we see eye to eye on a lot of things, and not that creates a bunch of harmful conflict. I think it creates good conflict, though, conflict that is good for content. And I don't know, that's what I enjoy about it, the fact that we can see the same situation so differently so often, especially based on our fandom. This is a football podcast, and we're both very competitive individuals, so we want to outcompete the other. So it's a good hobby for me, and that's why I enjoy it. I don't know if you have anything that would say you keeps it going, but that's what keeps it going for me.
Well, it's a paycheck, Gar.
Yeah,
Paycheck keeps me going.
has it been getting beefier and beefier as time goes on?
Oh yeah. No, I went from having to spend some money on some things to not spending anything, and now I'm breaking even.
That's true. I mean, I think you're only down the initial $40 or whatever you spent on that first mic. So that's not bad. You depreciate that over a couple of years. Yeah, you're sitting pretty already, pal.
But no, it's definitely, obviously want to do well and get that YouTube girl. But I mean, like we talk a little bit off and on, and I like to learn new things. You've done all the streaming stuff and learn more about that, and I've done a little bit more of the coding and trying to figure all that stuff out. And for someone who can barely read, learning to code is pretty tough. So that is something that has been a challenge, but I like to spend a couple hours here and there just to tinker around with it, see if I can't figure something out to make the website better. That will in turn make the podcast maybe a little bit more interactive and that sort of thing.
Sure. Okay, so I did kind of compile a good list of questions here. I think what I thought was a good list of questions just to kind of go through. And like I said, this is just a conversation we're having at this point with some prompting topics. But we are called the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix, Josh. What does Hidden Oaks mean to you?
I guess I don't know. Am I supposed to go off into a tangent like I have with the last few questions, or just a couple words?
You sure can. It's all natural, pal. You can go off on as big as a tangent as you want.
I feel like this is one of those questions where I need to be sitting in a comfy chair, reclined with somebody with a notepad taking notes on me. I guess I don't know. I mean, like I said in the introduction as to why we started the podcast, keep the league together. Hidden Oaks, we're just tight-knit group of people. Obviously, we still get together from time to time. Maybe not as much as we did when we were all living in the same neighborhood. Oh gosh, what was it called? Oh, the neighborhood. It had a name. Hidden Oaks.
Oh, I nailed it.
No, I remember now. But yeah, I mean, obviously we grew up seeing each other almost on a daily basis. Grew up, did our own thing, moved off. Some of us moved to Timbuktu. Some of us moved to Timbuktu 3. And then Jesse moved to the underpass. But we still find time to chat, get together, that sort of thing when we are able. And obviously you're trying to make it more in person than it has been in the past. I know our in-person draft started at Buffalo Wild Wings with a 2-minute timer still. And then last year we did the extreme opposite where we had no timer, and it was in your windy backyard, but that was still worth it. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
But yeah, just tight knit, getting together as often as we can. What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really reading my notes now and realize I skipped to like bullet 4 when I said what inspired us to make this podcast. So I'm mad at myself about that. But back to the question, what does Hidden Oaks mean to me? Because I can't read my own notes. Hidden Oaks is obviously, as you put it, it's community. It's the neighborhood. It's the name of the neighborhood we grew up in. So if we all grew up together, we are all really a tight-knit group, as you say. And so we're a community. Jamie, Jesse, Bradley, Nate, you. We've got the expanded, if you want to throw in the Taylors, the Fleeks, the Meglins, the Cooks, even the Connor Moots. I mean, there have been a lot of people that I'm still friends with to today that came out of that neighborhood. And, most people build their friends through school and through work. And obviously, living in the same neighborhood, we went to the same schools. and even a couple people have worked at the same time or have worked at the same place, but we are a community and we are of differing ages, and for us to stay together this long has been pretty incredible. So I know we all know the Hidden Oaks branding pretty proudly, and so I'm one of those people who likes to wear the Hidden Oaks brand pretty proudly. So
yeah, no, absolutely, I am as well. And going back to what you had just said on it, kind of withstanding the test of time, because people go off, they make friends at work and school, and that's one of the things that my parents told me when I went off to college is you can't live in the past as much as you think you're going to. The friends you have now are likely not going to be the ones that you have 5-10 years from now, and that's something that holds true for a lot of the friends that I had in school. But the ones that I would say I've had my relationships grow with have been the ones from Hidden Oaks. And that's just because there's, no matter where we are, there's a sense of home, I guess, when you're with that group. So that's always kind of a comfort.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with everything you just said there as well. So moving into, we're doing a podcast, and the podcast is also called not only Hidden Oaks, but Football Fix. So we like football, Josh. We're big fans of the sport of football. Tell me, we'll start with you. Tell me about your history with the sport of football. I know it's more expansive than mine, so tell me about your relationship with football.
Yeah, I mean, grew up playing it. So it started in 4th grade, like most people. I played a little bit in middle school, played high school for 3 years. Took a 6-year break before trying out for, well, I shouldn't say trying out because everyone makes a D3 college team, but played in college for 2 years of eligibility, which was fun. I wasn't a starter by any means, but I got to practice. I got some playing time, and after 6-7 years of not playing the sport at all, I was happy with that. Different type of camaraderie, different type of friendships, but it's something that it's been near and dear to me because it's a physical sport. You go through a lot of different things with a lot of different people. I still have back pain and probably some symptoms of concussions and all that jazz, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. As far as being a football fan, I know that's kind of the next bullet point on there. I don't know if those were bullets we're going to ask or if they're bullets that
Sure.
are just to go over without asking, but
they're probing in case we're struggling to talk. We'll just put things in there and then yeah.
Obviously, Packers fan. If you've been listening to the show at all, and that is not necessarily. It's not common in Minnesota, but it's not unheard of. And the reasoning behind it was I did have a little bit of a break in that younger years and kind of the middle school range where I was not necessarily as into football as I am now. But I'd watch it every once in a while with my parents and the neighbors and all that stuff. And I remember tuning in one night and watching somebody who I believe is an inspiration to your football fandom, a Mr. Brett Favre, absolutely torch the Raiders. Brett Favre?
No, who are the Raiders? Is that a real football team?
I don't know. With how politically correct the NFL is getting, it might just be the Las Vegas team.
Jesus.
But so watch Favre torch them after his dad passed, and they had a lot of, it was an emotional game for him. They showed that emotion. The team absolutely went balls to the wall for him, and that kind of converted me, I shouldn't say convert because I wasn't necessarily a fan of any team at that time. I would watch the Vikings, but in Minnesota, you didn't have much of a choice. And so that converted me to a Packers fan, and I've been sticking with it ever since. I do have memories of cheering for the Vikings, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I do remember the 98 game. I remember the missed field goal. I was ice fishing at the time and listening on the radio.
Okay.
But as far as just growing up, my brain develops a little bit more, figure out who a good football team is, what a good football team looks like, and I landed on the Packers.
Oh, of course. I try to do something cool. I guess it's not going to work.
A bunch of losers in Minnesota.
Ooh, my computer is feeling it. Okay. So, yeah, that's...
How about you, Gar?
I was going to say that's a very similar story to what you told last time, and it's a good transition to the same story I told last time. So pretty much the opposite of Josh in the youth. I didn't play football at all. I played baseball and I played soccer until about 5th, 6th grade, whatever it was. My dad coached both soccer and baseball, so I played whatever my dad coached. And when my dad quit coaching, I stopped playing. So as a youth, did not play football. I particularly didn't even care about football. So back in the Hidden Oaks days, and Josh, I don't know how many of these you would have gone to yourself, but there were plenty of football parties in the Hidden Oaks, specifically at the Knupps and the Morsetts and the Johnsons and the Nielsen's. So we would transition, or we would swap just having... we were hosting those football parties, and so I didn't even care about that as a kid. Everyone would be watching the game. The adults and the kids would have to be separate, and sometimes the kids would try and sneak down and watch the football game, and I was never that kid. I was trying to do anything else, play my Xbox, play my PlayStation, play cards, play a board game, whatever. Did not care about football as a youth. Then we get into the high school years, and, Brett Favre, your same man of inspiration, comes over to the Minnesota Vikings, okay? We sign him 09. I still don't really care about football at that point. I was way too into Halo 3 and Modern Warfare 2 and COD 4 and whatever I was playing in 09. So I didn't care about the signing of Favre. I didn't particularly pay attention. But then the Vikings and Brett Favre start winning games. And everybody seems to care because we hadn't been winning that many games that often. 09 was probably our best year since 98. So I start to care a little bit more. And then the game that got me hooked was the Vikings, 49ers. I don't even know how to describe it. It was the Vikings and the 49ers regular season game. It was like week 8 or whatever it was. Vikings win this game to remain undefeated. Brett Favre to Greg Lewis, back of the end zone. How do you like that? The hair on the back of my neck stood up. It was intense. I loved it. I die-hard watched football at that point for the rest of that season. We all know how that season ends for the Vikings, so nothing like heartbreak, but I was one of the kids in high school the next day who wore that Favre jersey after we lost, still saying how proud of the team I was, how proud of the man I was. And let's just take a tangent for a moment to talk about there is no better inspiration for the sport of football than the man of Brett Favre. The man loved every second of everything he did in that field, whether he was super high on OxyContin or as sober as a skunk. But you could tell he loved everything he did and every second he spent on that field, and talking about the game pre and post game. And that man was the living embodiment of the sport of football. So it is interesting that the single man, obviously regionally it makes sense, but one man inspired both of our fandoms pretty strongly. And I've been a sucker for it ever since. I've probably in 2010, I started playing fantasy. I started doing this. I started doing that. And the rest is history, as they say. And now I'm in like 18 fantasy leagues, and I watch as many games as I can every weekend. And I'm a huge Bobo at this point. So
yeah. No, and I think that's a great transition to our guest. We just talked him up quite a bit. Oh, you don't have him? You couldn't get him?
Oh, Brett Favre? I thought you were in charge of that.
Son of a... Well, he's probably upset. Moving on. How'd you get into fantasy football?
Wow, we really dropped the ball on that one. How I got into fantasy football? Well, similar to the story I was just telling, Brett Favre got me hooked on the sport of football, and there's no way to make football more interesting than fantasy football. Specifically, I got hooked by my Uncle Brian. He's been doing a fantasy football league, I think, since the Stone Age. He was probably doing fantasy football back when you get the stats from a newspaper and not a website. So that was the first league I was ever in, and it's the most expensive league still to this day I've ever been in, $150 buy-in. So she's a spendy one. But I came in like third, or I did pretty well my first year, and so I just got addicted. There's no better day than a fantasy football draft day. The season's fun, and obviously you're competing to win money, but unless you have a really shitty draft and you know it, just being able to build your team and picking the players you want, and it's just such an addicting feeling. So once you do it once, then I wanted to join 2 leagues so I get that high twice a year. Then I joined 3 leagues and 4 leagues, and now like I said, I'm in 7 or 8 leagues. So the high of just drafting a fantasy football team is intense, and I love it. And hopefully I'll get my fix a little bit more this year when we try and do this daily fantasy season-long challenge. But we'll talk about that in the coming weeks and maybe a little bit at the end of this pod. But the drafting a team and drafting the team is by far my favorite part, and then just seeing how they do and coasting to the end of the season and hopefully winning money is fun as well. What about you? How did you get into fantasy?
So I saw that question and I thought about it, and I mean, the earliest memories I have is my dad playing fantasy, but I don't honestly know how I got into it. I created this league with you guys because I just wanted to play fantasy. And I don't know, because you said that you must have been in the league already before this one. And so you kind of helped with kickstarting it and getting people. But that's really just it, is I just wanted to play because I'd seen it and other people were playing. There's not a whole lot of inspiration behind it, I guess. But that's kind of what happened. I love the sport and figured, why not try and make some money off of it, and in most cases lose money. But I do have a few championships under my belt,
ladies,
and quite a few second place finishes, and a handful of third. And I don't think I've ever finished any lower than third.
Never, huh?
Never, ever. Not in the leagues that I am going to admit in. I think the years that I don't finish in the top 2 don't actually happen.
Sure, those you just erase those from the old memory box there.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, before you might have a gift from Zoom. Jesus. What? Okay. Even though our meeting's not a group meeting, they say they've removed the 40-minute time limit. Okay, that's great. There's only 2 of us. Love it. Zoom. Okay, but so anyways, I was going to say, before we transition to the next thing, so you said there's really not a great origin story, if you will, but so I guess, why do you keep playing fantasy? And I know you've gone up to like 5 leagues, then you've dialed it back to maybe 3 or 4, but what brings you back every year?
I talked about my love of the game, and fantasy is just a great way to, there's players out there that I never would have heard of unless it was because of fantasy, like Mark Andrews. Talked him up big time last season.
Big Mark Andrews guy.
Big fan.
Yeah.
And never would have heard of him if it wasn't for fantasy. And so there's a lot of, I know a lot of people do it because they like to gamble. They like to play that. And honestly, that's fine. And I like that too. But my big thing is it's kind of opened my eyes to more players, just the amount of work that people put in. And so I have a lot of respect for individual players in the league, as well as more teams. And so it's just made me more of a football fan, I guess.
Yeah, no, it is a great connection to the sport, and like you said, there's players we never would have learned about. And for me, I know, Josh, you have a bit more responsibilities than I do with a wife and a home to maintain and little puppers running around, but it gives me an excuse to watch and care about every game. I love the sport of football, and I'd probably watch at least casually anyways, but now I'm tuned in. Now, pretty much being in as many leagues as I am, every play is either a point for me or a point against me, and it's not quite that extreme, but it makes everything more interesting. Money on the line or not, it's all about competition. I love it. So
yeah, and I'm fortunate enough to have a loving wife that's in the league with us, and she and I co-manage our other league together, and so it's not like that responsibility keeps me from watching the games in depth. She loves sitting down on Sundays watching the games with me as well. So and there's no complaints and no lack of football in our household.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. So we've talked plenty about fantasy, and the next bullet we have in our list of probing questions is what inspired us to make the pod. We already talked about that. We're inspired by a pod, and we're here to try and drive engagement. Our original audience was the Dynasty audience. Learned that those guys are a bunch of casual fucks right away. We had a bigger audience with the redraft league, and that has continued to expand. Plus, we've picked up some other ancillary players along the way, but we'll talk about those in just a second. I put this note in just to give myself a bit of a pat on the back. I've been known to do that every once in a while, but underneath the what inspired us to make the podcast, how did we come up with the name? Josh, do you remember the naming process at all, or what do you remember about how we came up with the name eventually?
Yeah, I actually saw that. I was actually wondering if you're going to gloss over it and skip it, and I'm glad you didn't, because from what I remember, it was us kind of texting or talking, and you wanted to incorporate hood in it because that's kind of Hidden Oaks is the hood
For sure.
and so we wanted to have something that lined up with that, and we bounced a handful of ideas off of each other. Some of them more silly than others, and I wish I had that list. And if you have that list, that would be awesome.
That's probably a phone or two ago at this point.
Yeah, same here. But as far as like the name itself, we wanted to incorporate that. And so we went with an acronym, Hidden Oaks Overdose, and then OD, Football Fix. So during the season, we're overdosing on, we're getting our fix of football and we're overdosing on it. So that's kind of the thought process behind it for me. But I'm trying to remember some of the other names, because I know we had like, Hidden Oaks Original something or another. I don't even know.
Right. Yeah, I honestly can't remember the list of other names we played around with either. You nailed it. You nailed pretty much everything I was going to say with you want to incorporate hood, like a little bit of an acronym. Obviously, OD is a little bit more of a creative one because it's not two different words for the OD, overdose, but everyone still shortens overdose to OD. So hood works just fine. Football Fix makes it sound good. But the one thing, when I was going to business school, and this will probably never come up in the history of forever, but on the off chance it did, I'll be really proud of myself. I've heard a lot of people talk about the naming of things, and I know some small companies I pay attention to that have talked about maybe regretting the name or the branding they've chose for themselves. So when we go with it's very technically Hidden Oaks Overdose : Football Fix. So this kind of, in my mind, gives us the opportunity to, if we ever wanted to expand the quote-unquote Hidden Oaks network, we could do Hidden Oaks Overdose : something else. Let's say Brad and Kyle want to do a fishing or a hunting, or Brad and Brian want to do fishing or hunting or NASCAR or anything else someday. Let's say someone else
turn left.
someone else from the Hidden Oaks family wants to start their own thing. That gives them a chance to come under a quote-unquote established umbrella business brand or whatever, but still be their own thing. So they'd be Hidden Oaks Overdose and then whatever they want to be after the colon. So hopefully they would want to do that someday, because our podcast is worth somewhat of a damn. Obviously, we don't advertise ourselves, so we won't be for quite some time, if ever. But that's just the one other piece I wanted to add into what Josh said, is the future-proofing of it. The Hidden Oaks Overdose is great. Football Fix is us, and then someone else someday could come in as Hidden Oaks Overdose something else. Arts and crafts.
Tractor Weekly.
That's obviously the Jesse podcast for anyone who is wondering. But Nikita could do something someday. Jamie could do something. I mean, the Hidden Oaks, the expanded universe and expanded family of Hidden Oaks is growing and has grown quite a bit. So that is part of it as well.
Yeah. And I'd never even thought of that. And that is very true. I honestly don't foresee any of that happening as far as other people starting a podcast.
No.
But the possibility of it being out there, and let's just say we get hit with a bunch of different lawsuits for stealing things and whatnot. Who knows? We could change it to Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fun.
Nailed it. And you keep the alliteration. It's perfect.
Right? No, I like it. I mean, I never thought about that. I did, when you were talking, I did remember one of the other options we had was Hidden Oaks Overdrive, but I don't know. We weren't going to do anything with the colon, I don't think. And we couldn't figure out what overdrive would do. So
You love to hear it. So another probing question under what inspired us to make the pod. After 2 full seasons, how do we think we've done so far? So we've definitely touched on this throughout what we've been saying so far. But if you were to address that question directly, Josh, what do you think? After 2 full seasons going into season 3, how do you think we have done so far? Self-grade us.
Let's just see here.
Ooh, he's pulling out the whiteboard for anyone who is audio only. Oh, Josh, your audio may have cut out. Can you hear me? He drew a smiley face. But Josh, I can tell you that your audio did cut out. I don't know if you bumped something or something got unplugged, but I cannot hear you on the stream anymore. So Josh will monkey around with that for just a second. No,
My back.
There, you are back. That is one. I'm glad we didn't have another situation. That's beautiful. You are back, big sexy. What happened, if I may ask? Or did it just magically come back? Ooh, I heard you say I'm back, but then I'm guessing you didn't hear. Now I don't hear you. But at one point I did hear you say, am I back? So you did something right for a second, but it sounds like your audio wasn't there. Did your headphones become unplugged?
Well, I'm back.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I would say that is something you should have said before in the tell everybody about me, is I like to commit to the bit, even if it means throwing a giant whiteboard against my computer and disconnecting everything.
That's what happened, because I heard like a click when you would bump something, and then I heard a click, and I was like, oh, well, we have lost everything, but I'll just keep going here. But you did commit to the bit. I appreciate that. So again, Josh drew a smiley face. So you'd say after 2 seasons, that's how we've done? We've done smiley face?
Yeah, I mean, we've kept it pretty regular at the same day, same time for the most part. Now we're going to have a little bit more of a schedule with us streaming it. I wouldn't say it's a teeth smile, a toothy smile. It's not that wide.
Okay.
Because we've only got 15 people following us on YouTube. If we were at 100 already, yeah, sure. But,
right now it's
slow and steady wins the race.
It's a closed mouth smile, but we still have room to grow. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's not quite a wince like it would have been if we were sitting at you and me and your mom following us on YouTube.
Right.
But it's a smile because we've got 15 people.
Ooh,
that's more than we have in our league.
I don't know if you can see this on the cam, but the sun is now penetrating my eyeball, so I'm going to adjust my shades here for a second. If you can say anything else or move on to the next question, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, we don't toot our own horns. We're Minnesotans. You have a mention of the Hidden Oaks expanded universe. Who else might we talk about? I mean, we've kind of talked about everybody through this conversation as far as Jesse and Bradley goes, and Brian, and those are kind of the big 3 in the league at this point. I mean, Hammer married into it, Jamie, and Nikita as well. And so we have too many league members. I don't remember everybody in the league.
There's 14 of us. So how many do you think you could name off the top of your head out of 14? Well, I guess out of 12, not counting me and you. Out of 12, how many could you name?
Brian.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put the over under at 6.5. I think you can get 6. I think 7 is pushing it. So go ahead. All right. So Brian.
Yeah. Brian, Willie, Hammer, Jamie, Nikita, Jeremy.
Ooh, okay. You're at 6. You're right where I put you at.
Pressure's on. Did I say Derek?
Did you?
I don't know. I mean, there's Derek, there's Garrett, there's Nate's not anymore, Jordan's not anymore, Kyle, Brad, Jesse, Eric. Did I get over 6? Did I prove you wrong?
Yeah, you did. You did
right,
prove me
guessing.
wrong. You did pretty good. I think you definitely left out T. Would be a big one that you left out. And honestly, I don't know if
big one now. Has he grown?
He is not grown. We'll say he's standing on stilts in this joke for him to be a big one.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, now I'm going to feel guilty if we skip someone, but I think you lumped everyone in there. You said your wife, Jamie, Hammer, Eric, Jeremy, Jesse, Brett. Yeah, we'll say we got everyone. If not, I don't know. You're not that important, I guess. That's ruthless.
Yikes.
Right, but there's also, so that's our main league, and that's the league we're going to talk about the most. We also have Eric's out of Latvia, our number one international fan. We might get a Mika or a Micah out of Australia to tune in every once in a while. There is Giannis, also out of Latvia, I believe. That Jonah fuck, who I will always hate, out of the Great Britain. But yeah, that's kind of coming out of the BSB league we've talked about before, and we'll likely talk about again. And if we've gone this far and we haven't mentioned it yet, I'm sure we'll have a conniption. Ryan Walters, who did that intro for us at the very beginning, he will also be commissioning our podcast challenge this year. We've done studs and duds and other stuff in the past. We'll talk about that in a bit, but Walters will be commissioning that. He made the intro for us. He might try and make our audio sound prettier in the future, but Ryan Walters is someone we'll likely talk about on a very regular basis, along with Brian, who was our number one emailer, and I'm sure there's some others that will contribute as well. So, Josh,
going back to the BSB league, I do like talking about them, and they're they're more involved in our league, in our podcast, than our actual league members, which is weird. But it's nice. I do enjoy talking to them, and we had Eric's on that one time, and I'm going to be honest. Growing up, I was told to never talk to strangers on the internet, and all of this league is from Reddit, and I talked to them, and I'm still here. So I think go for it, kids. Talk to strangers.
what about if they had... Well, so that's strangers on the internet. What if there's a stranger on the street? White van, free candy written on the side. What do you do in that situation if you're a kid?
I mean, you obviously got to go help out. They've got way too much candy that they're going to be able to consume, and it'll go bad by the time that they can finish it. So go get your candy, kids.
Some would assume that van is literally full of candy, and they're just begging people to take it so it doesn't go bad.
Well, if they're going to abduct a child, why wouldn't they want a car? Of course it's filled with candy. It's a frickin' van.
See, Josh, I don't want to toot our own horn too much because we kind of said a couple times we don't do that, but I don't think there's two individuals on the planet smarter than us.
Hidden Oaks Overdose counseling today. I don't know.
That sounds like a daily blog or something. I like that.
Hidden Oaks Overdose daily life tips.
There you go. That's good too. I was gonna say we do have at least two psychology degrees in the Hidden Oaks family, so we could get some sort of something in there.
Brush your teeth at midnight, then you're done for 2 days. There's your tip.
Oh, you just blew my fucking mind, Josh.
Yep.
Don't they say you're supposed to brush your teeth twice a day though? Twice a day for 2 minutes?
You brush it at every midnight, and that's your morning for the next day and your evening for the day before. And then you and just brush it once a day, and it's 2 days or 2 times.
God, I wish. So I just said I don't think there's two individuals on the planet smarter than us. I wish my brain was half the size of yours. That is an incredible get. Whew. Okay, Josh.
Dentist.
Part-time dentist in a strip mall. Oh, I'll never forget. All right, Josh, so we've talked plenty. We can kind of wrap up this reintroduction conversation, but what is next for the podcast? Looking forward, Josh. This year's going to be a little different than the last two.
I think getting 100 followers is a good goal. I mean, it's not a lot. You look at people that don't deserve 1 follower, and they're sitting there with millions. And then you got, as you said, guys like us with brains the size of Tallahassee, and we have 15. So tell your friends, create alternate accounts, do what you can, folks.
Oh yeah, be a friend, tell a friend.
Yeah. No, honestly, we've kept it going 2 years longer than I thought we would. And so just keeping going, changing things up, keeping it fresh. I like the idea of changing up kind of the activities that we do with listeners who choose to interact with us. I do hope to someday learn coding enough to get that website put up so we can have a location where it has our league stats, as well as potential outcomes for the podcast, and a place for people to listen that's not necessarily on YouTube or whoever else, who knows. But yeah, I mean, just keeping it going so we keep sane in these troubling times in America.
Just got to keep on keeping on, man. So, yep, Josh summed it up well. We've got, I mean, we have no indication of stopping. Our relationship is good enough on a day-to-day, week-to-week, year-to-year basis where we are unlikely to break up like the Beatles or the Stones or other famous bands who have broke up. So Josh and I will be attached at the hip probably for the great foreseeable future, and hopefully you guys come along with us. Specifically for this year, another part I was thinking about for this question, like Josh said, we're changing up a little bit. Studs and duds and locks and upsets are for this year. For our fan interaction, we'll still have the fan tasty zones. You can email, send us questions, send us sports things you want us to talk about. So you can interact with us through the fan tasty zone. And then for non-league members, you can also be featured in the fantasy fun time through the fantasy, daily, whatever it is, daily fantasy challenge we're doing this year. So your goal is to try and be better than Josh and I, similar to locks and upsets last year. There'll be probably a $10 or $20 buy-in at the beginning of the season. You'll set a lineup of new players every week, and the person with the most points, or however we work it out at the end of the year, will be winner take all. They get all that cash money. So we hope you come along.
With the name closest to one of the hosts.
Oh, what if it's one of us?
Well, then we win.
You're goddamn right. So that isn't set up yet, but I do foresee that being set up by Walters on FanDuel. He probably would have already done it before today, but I looked myself in FanDuel, and their website says that the 2020 NFL Friends mode is live, but when I looked, I couldn't actually create it, so that'll likely be up in the next week or two. So we'll send out more info on that when we can. And we're also it's been inspired by Brian and myself, and listening to the Power Trip, good inspiration for Josh and I, talk about how, not a lot of people like to sit here and listen to our football takes for a extended period of time, all our homer talk. I'm sure people around here, especially fantasy football fans, get inundated with fantasy football and regular football talk constantly. Very rarely will Josh and I come up with our own original take. So we're going to cut down on I know. As smart as we like to think we are, Josh, we're probably not as smart as we think.
As we like to think we is, Gar.
Oh, my. Yeah. You are a spelling champion and I am not. So grammar, spelling, it's all the same. But so we're going to cut down on that. We're going to go away from being overly real and overly raw with our emotions and our Packers and Vikings takes, and we're going to try and become more entertaining if we can. We will still have a more creative segment where we talk about stuff like that, but it'll be greatly shortened. We might add in a couple comedy bits of our own. We might get a couple of funny call-ins throughout the year. But our overall goal is to go away from making you listen to all the crap you've listened to all week on our show and be a little more entertaining while still talking about our fantasy football league and interacting with you guys, because otherwise you won't listen at all. So we're going to try and become a little more entertaining, a little more bit-based this year. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. It might blow up in our face. It might be.
So I know that this is a...
No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're all good.
I know that this is a last minute thing, but Gar, you and I would say that we're known for lose-offs, right? That's kind of our thing.
I don't think I've ever had a good old-fashioned lose-off that was nearly as notable as any of ours ever.
Yeah, I mean, and for those of you who can't put two and two together, a lose-off is where the individual tries to lose. So, like Garlic and I, we would do what we could to lose whatever game we were playing, in an attempt to make the other person have a little bit of a jolt of happiness as they win. Well, the real happy person is the one that loses. And have you ever heard of a fantasy loser league?
A fantasy loser league? I cannot say that I've heard of that.
Well, it is something that I'd heard of a while ago. And it is where you draft a team, you have to roster a full team, and they have to be an active player and starting. And they will get, and so, if they get negative points, that's great. If they get positive points, you don't want them to score a lot. But if they get 0, points, then there's like a penalty where they get the average or 20 points, and you want to have the lowest score each week.
Ooh.
It is a good old fashioned lose off league.
Wow. That sounds
I
like
know
it'd be
it's last minute.
That
The
sounds like
Walters get to work.
that sounds like
We
it
don't
could
pay you for nothing.
That does sound like it could be a fun little experiment. That I would not put money on that, but I would certainly enjoy that as like a side experiment, at least for a year, and
Oh, yeah.
see how it goes. That does sound fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Good
man.
old fashioned lose off.
Yeah. So Josh, in
I can
talking
already
about
tell you, Kirk Cousins is my quarterback of choice.
you son of a bitch. So Josh, we've talked plenty. Is there anything else you would like to talk about yourself, about the podcast, about our fantasy football leagues, about the sport of football? Is there anything else you would like to touch on?
No, other than your audio sounding bad right now. I don't know why.
Oh, do I sound like a robot?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try and give this a little fix right here. So anyways, like I was going to say, did you have anything else you wanted to say? I forget.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, well, we're not quite done yet. I'm going to do a new little thing. I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but a friend of mine, Josh, and you might remember her. Do you remember anyone by the name? You would know her as Natalie Geiger. Does that name ring any bells to you? It does.
Yeah, she worked with you, right?
She did. She worked at the T-Bell. She did date Jordan for just a spell. She was...
That is the other reason, yep.
Yep, and well, the most famous reason should certainly be that she was a loyal Team Garlic person from the very beginning. She rocked my T-shirt. So Natalie, I believe her last name is now White. She's been married. I was at her wedding. I don't remember what her name is off the top. Her new last name is off the top of my head. But Natalie is a wonderful person, and she has decided that she is going to start her own podcast. So I know I pulled up a thing in here. There we go. I'll put this on the screen. So she has decided she wants to start the Art After Dark podcast with her friend, Maddie. So they've already put their trailer on Spotify, and they are going to start recording on, or they're going to start putting out shows in September. But I wanted to give a chance to spotlight them on the off chance.
Do they listen?
I highly doubt they would listen to our fantasy football podcast.
Well, I mean, we're more than that. We've got other things. You're probably going to listen to them, and I'd never see you don't go to art school.
Well, that's true. Well, Josh, I'm going to play the trailer that they put on Spotify, and you tell me if you are more or less interested in their potential or in their future podcast after listening to the trailer. You ready?
I guess.
Loading. There you go, Josh. More or less interested now after hearing their trailer.
Well, they seem to talk over one another, and kind of seemed like they didn't rehearse as many times as we did during our introduction. And so, probably, I don't know. Are they going to commit these crimes? Are they going to reenact them?
I guess they didn't get specific on that, did they?
No. If they reenact them, I might. Otherwise, I might look at their Spotify page and ignore it. But yeah, who knows? Not going to listen to anything about the art. I got Caramel Bear for that.
All right, so I don't think that audio played on the stream because I screwed something up, but it's too late now. You heard it on the audio podcast. But so Art After Dark, Maddie and Natalie will be doing that. Like they said, their first episode's going to drop the week of September 7th. If there's any chance at all you'd be interested in such a thing, I say give them a shout, because you've given us a shout and we are absolutely no one and worth nothing. So I think they're worth at least that same respect. Give them a chance. This is where we move into the outro, Josh. It's been a while.
I will say, though, Gar, that
yes, please.
They're already beating us in the social media aspect of things, because we've got the dying Facebook that you've made me a co-admin of, and everybody knows I'm not doing anything with it. I don't even go on my own Facebook.
Sure.
So I don't know. Do we need to up our game? And I know you Insta. I've Insta'd a couple times, but do we need like a Hidden Oak Snapchat where we go around and we do I don't know, take pictures of oak trees. What?
I don't think we need that, but I can give you, I'll pull back the curtain on them just a little bit. So they do, I think they currently, their Instagram page for the show has like 200 some followers, but you want to know their secret to getting that many followers, Josh?
Were you naked for them?
Well, I'm sure that helped, but no. So what Natalie did is Natalie had a couple different Instagrams, okay? She had like one where she posted all her art. I don't know if she has her own company or if she wants to do that, kind of like Levi Oki Illustration, but she had a couple different Instagrams, and then so she merged her personal and her professional account into one, and then she took what was her old personal account and then just retconned/transitioned that into her podcast Instagram. So she already had all her own personal followers on that Instagram who now follow the podcast Instagram. Some would say that's an evil genius move.
That is an evil genius move.
And God,
so what you're saying is I need to change my old Facebook account to the Hidden Oaks Overdose page because I had like 700 people I never met before.
You know, it's not, I don't think it works one-to-one like Instagram would, but it's not a bad strategy if you think you can get us some more likes and some more subs on YouTube.
I'm going to be 100% honest, Garlic. It's not worth it for me to even try and go through that.
I don't think it would work in actual facts. I'm not sure if you're still doing a bit or not, but that would not work
in any way. It could be a 2-button operation and work 100% as planned. I still wouldn't do it.
2-button operation. Oh, Josh. I will give your ongoing effort to all things work a perfect 5 out of 7 that you will always and forever deserve. All right, so that was the supported creator. I might shout them out again in the next coming weeks, or in the next couple weeks. I might find someone else to shout out, but community, if you know anyone, any of your friends who are running a real small operation like this, they're doing YouTube videos or they're doing a podcast or whatever, and you think we should feature them, let me know. Because we would like to take our very small platform and showcase other really small platforms, and maybe we can all network ourselves up to something a little bit bigger. But who knows? Anyways, Josh,
maybe we could have them on our show, and they could have us, and we could promote our own shows on each other's shows.
We could try that. I don't think we're going to have very much of a convergence in our audiences, but I could ask her.
I mean, we won't advertise ourselves as a football podcast. We will be a comedy, friendship, psychology podcast with a little bit of football.
Yeah, I mean, you seem like you have the creative mind to spin that the right way, so maybe that's what we'll do. We'll see. We'll see how successful our plug for them is, and then they might come crawling back to us, and then we can set the terms. You understand? So
I already got it written up.
Excellent. So we'll just wait to see
those
how
crayons
our plug
from
does.
the intro. I found them.
That's a nice callback, Josh. That's beautiful. That's beautiful and comedy right there. If they watch the YouTube video, they will probably be disappointed because, like I said, I'm 99% sure that their trailer audio did not play in the YouTubes, so that's going to be tough. So it makes us look bad a little bit because, well, it makes me look bad because I screwed something up. But anyways, we will move on to the outro like I've been teasing a couple times here. Josh, final words are, we are back to our fall programming. Next week, we will be doing our breakdown of every NFL team because it is exciting and interesting for Josh and I to do it. So we won't do that every week for you guys, but Josh and I enjoy doing that. We guess all 256 games. Next year, it'll be what? 17 more than that, so that's 273 games when they go up to 17 regular season games. I don't know, maybe I did my math wrong on that. Or would it be, I don't know. I'm not going to do the math right now, but it is 256 games still for this year. So Josh, I saw you were doing something on your website for that. Am I going to be able to pick all the games through the website or through something like that, or should we just go back to the old tried and true Excel?
I think we'll have to do the Excel as backup because getting it to save as an individual is tough. But if we do the Excel version, there might be a way to pull the Excel data into just not necessarily all 256, but the overall records, and then put it on the site. And if anybody would be interested in filling out the thing, maybe we could put on a link to the Excel form on I don't know, whatever people look at.
Sure. So if anyone's still listening to the podcast at this point and you're interested in hating your life for a good, 60 minutes and guessing literally all 256 regular season NFL games this year, let us know, and we will get you a link to a spreadsheet or a form or whatever so you can guess along with us, and we'll track you, and we'll talk about it at the end of the year. So if you're still listening, give us a shout out. Otherwise, we won't put in the effort because it's a waste of our time. So that's next week. 2 weeks from now, we will be grading the Hidden Oaks Overdose Redraft Draft. I'm trying to get a fun host for that. The host from last year is out, and I won't say why, but I will just say I'm looking at a new host because I don't want to be the sticker bitch. I just want to focus on my own draft. But for you redrafters out there, I'm hoping to have a fun, entertaining host to be our sticker bitch and to belittle you for your bad picks. So look forward to that. It might be Will Ferrell. Might be that Brett Favre character we dropped the ball on here. You never know.
He's not going to call us back.
So anyways, next week is the all NFL team breakdown. 2 weeks from now is the Hidden Oaks Redraft Draft Grades podcast. 3 weeks from now is the fantasy preview. So Josh and I will make some year-long fantasy predictions and just talk about fantasy in general moving into the year. And it will also be the week 1 preview because we will be 1 day before the kickoff of the NFL season in 3 weeks. So that'll be it. And then right after that, we'll be right back into our regular programming for the NFL season. Josh, are you pumped? Are you stoked? We're 3 weeks away from NFL football.
Yay.
The enthusiasm is exuding from you. Josh has reached the point at the end of the podcast where he does not care, and I cannot blame him because we have gone on long, had a couple technical difficulties along the way, but it's because we suck. Everyone out there, stay safe. COVID is still real. Josh, don't forget about our journey to 100 subscribers. Tell Anita, tell Alan, tell whoever you got to tell. Be a friend, tell a friend.
Okay.
Engage the show. Kaya, subscribe to our YouTube page. HiddenOaksOverdose@gmail.com, Facebook.com/hoodpod, Anchor.fm/hoodpod.
By the way, I saw your ticker at the bottom, and I hate you.
Oh, where I you see that? You see what I snuck in there? What does it say, Josh?
I tried to change it, but it wouldn't let me.
Ooh, you tried to change it in the Word file there?
Yeah.
Are you using it? Are you opening it as a Google Doc, or are you opening it as because you have to do like the special open with, and then there's like a little Google plugin you have to do a text converter or something like that because you can't do it in a Google Doc. It's got to be that special thing.
I did it in different. It wasn't a Google Doc. It was something else, and I don't know if it saved properly because I was doing other things.
Well, I can see it scrolling through right now. So sorry, pal. You still do in fact smell. Anyways, folks, that's it for us. Josh, I'm going to go ahead and let the folks go to sleep. Thanks for getting your brightness at the end there. And then he left the video call. We usually do a little banter here back and forth while the music's playing. And he just left. Rude. Whew. Well, not bad. Would have been cool if Josh didn't show up at the very last second. There's a little visual Easter egg for anyone who's still watching the visual stream. Love you, bye.